Welcome to the smooth jazz that is Tea Time Boys with your hosts Stuart and Michael. Tonight's episode is brought to you by Old Saint Prick. Remember, he's like Santa Claus, but with a whole lot more vengeance. Oh, did we stop? Oh, fuck.
All this recording stuff, like, within the span of, like, a day or two? He's doing that Let's Play thing, right?
Yeah, but I don't know if we're going to do all of it in one day.
What are you doing?
I don't know. And we're going to play a game, and then we're going to call, and I'm just going to be the straight man, that's it. I'll hopefully have fun playing the games and not get sucky.
Yeah, but, like, I feel like it's hard to be the straight man, though. It's hard, because, like, okay, if I'm a goofy guy, which, like, I am, by, like, nature, I just kind of, I can say literally whatever. Yeah. And it's, like, I feel like the straight man is tougher, you know? Like, I can just be like, waddle-a-doo! And then, like...
What the hell is that? What'll it do? Wait, do that again right now.
Waddle-a-doo! It's like a joke, you know? It's like 1920s joke or some shit. Yeah. But it's a joke nonetheless. But then you have to react off of it, and it's you reacting off of it. Like, if I just went waddle-a-doo and you didn't just say, what was that? Then it would have just been, like, swept under the rug.
Well, I guess we just have to develop a chemistry. He's the guy who asked me to do this, so it's not like I didn't suggest it, but he's crazier than I am. So he wanted the guy like who like didn't know a lot about games, which is pretty good. Like he picked a decent guy, and someone he knows well who can kind of fit what I guess his image was creatively of what his straight man would be. I think he thinks we riff off each other, and I think we can. It's usually kind of funny.
Do you do that like in conversation?
Well, I haven't talked to him in a while, so...
I'm just wondering, because, like... Someone's fucking pissing. I don't know if that'll pick up, but...
But you saying someone pissing definitely will.
Okay. The main thing that I have is that, like... Just, like, I don't know... I brought this up earlier, but... Just from other people I know, I mean, the main thing that... There's this channel called Game Grumps, and it became popular... Like, or afterwards became kind of popular because the guy was a straight man and knew jack shit. Like, literally, like...
So tell me, we're just gonna rip off Game Grumps? Just be a psychotic version of it? Just be like my buddy, like me just saying really weird stuff, and then my buddy just going way too enthusiastic over things?
Yeah, it'll be like...
Game Grumps on crack.
Game Grumps on crack. Crack Grumps.
Crack Grumps.
There you go, just new show. But the basic gist is that, like, he was so... off, like he didn't know jack shit, like he didn't even know like Zelda was chic sort of thing, or like the littlest things, like when they played a thing of Pokemon and he was like, what the fuck is that? Right? Like, and like thinking back at that, like just to go off on that topic,
that's hilarious. That's pretty funny actually.
If you look,
I enjoy that.
If you were to like look into Pokemon just like generically, like you're like in the 30s, you get thrown into the future, right? And then you're like, what the fuck is a Pikachu? Like, I feel like Pokemon are downright scary.
Yeah, well, you know, I can ruin Pokemon in like one sentence.
Go.
Yeah, it's basically another way to pull off like animal fighting. Like cockfighting is illegal, but you can just, as long as the thing has like a lightning bolt coming out of its tail, it's fine.
Well, they actually had that in one of the Pokemon games.
What, cockfighting?
No. No. I want that in a Pokemon game. No.
Chicken just comes out of nowhere.
Just guys like fistful of money surrounding your Pokemon battle.
Chicken claw!
No, like in one of the games, I think it was Black and White. Stupid name for a fucking Pokemon game.
They ran out of colors. They ran out of colors, so they had to pick the shades.
No, it went colors, and then fancy colors, and then gems, and then more gems, and then back to colors, and then it went to like... stars.
What about the letters? The X and Y? Is that
X and Y. I don't think there was a Z. There's X and Y, and then there's...
They always come in twos.
Anyway, the main thing was that in Black and White, there was like, I think there was like this, like it was like PETA. They're basically like, yo, Pokemon don't want to fucking fight.
Yeah, okay.
It's bullshit. You should stop letting them fight.
I'm so tired that I thought you were talking about the bread for a second. That's so... I was like, what's wrong with me?
That's your Italian heritage. That's not even Italian.
No, it's not.
What is pita. Is that Greek?
Yeah, but Middle Eastern use it too.
Like, it's just flat bread, right?
Yeah, it's a type of bread. You know, have you ever gone to like the Paramount and you see these guys like make the pita?
What the fuck's the Paramount?
Like the Lebanese restaurant chain?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, see, first thing I thought it was the movie.
The pictures, yeah. The pictures.
It's like, the fuck does that have to do with pitas? But
no, they like grill it. They actually like have it put in the oven and like, make it like rise and stuff.
It's just cool. Like flatbread on flatbread and then like kind of like circulate around and the air rises in the middle.
Yeah.
Is that it?
Yeah, if you don't want... That's if you're like, eating with like hummus or something, but if you like stuff it like... You're eating something in a pita, they don't have it rise, and you just like cut part of it off, so you can... You cut like a hole in it so you can put the meat and the vegetables in it.
But it's still a rise, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's like thin. It's not like gonna rise, like the air inside is gonna expand it like they do when you're going there to get like... Let's say you're gonna get a bowl of hummus or baba ganoush. They're gonna... The bread they serve at the table is gonna be like puffed up.
Yeah. I know that, but I thought that was just the same bread, but they just...
Puffed it up?
No, they just cut it. Like, they just cut it in the middle.
Pretty much. It's just less... Like, it could be soft or hard. Like, the one they serve at the table is probably, like, harder.
Is it?
I think a little bit.
I'm, like, completely off of this Lebanon shit. One of my previous coworkers was from Lebanon. He fucking loved Paramount so much.
That's Lebanese cuisine, right?
Yeah, he said, like... every time he went there, it reminded him of his mom, because his mom used to grow his own, like their own spices.
Yeah,
and like in the backyard, and it was really funny too because he said that like a lot of times, cats would come.
Yeah.
And they'd smell like they'd grow catnip, and cats would come and just get fucking high. So what happened is he'd go out, and he said the best way to describe it was like there'd be like 15 cats, and it'd just be a cat orgy. Because what happened? Well, it wasn't like pure sex, but it was basically just like, no, you know what? It's like a cat opium den.
Okay,
like,
that's better because I don't like just because you're high doesn't mean you necessarily like get raunchy, man.
I don't know. Maybe it's better on everything.
For cats, catnip.
I don't know. Are you a cat? You don't know what's like going on in there.
I mean, we all like can relate to all the creatures of the earth sometimes, but I don't think in this capacity.
I don't think I can fucking relate to a hippopotamus.
Well, it gets hungry. You get hungry.
You're just doing that off the Hungry Hungry Hippos thing, aren't you?
No, I never thought of that. I just checked that in there. I did not think...
I just thought you said like hippos, like Hungry Hungry Hippos. You get hungry. Sometimes you're purple and you just chomp.
No, I was just checking like what's a basic thing that's in common between living animals. Oh yeah, hunger, thirst.
Yeah, but that's just like life. I mean, like you can say like even to the basic thing, like fire is the same thing, right? It's got that hunger.
Fire?
Yeah, it's got hunger, quote unquote, right? Just to survive. And you can't say that we're related to that shit.
I'm not, because it's freaking fire. It's just oxygen.
I'm just saying hunger isn't something that you can relate.
No, I mean like the physical hunger of a living animal. Not a metaphorical hunger of a fire.
You don't know. It could be alive. I wrote a grade 9 paper on it.
Yep, grade... What class was this?
Grade 10 is grade 10.
That's even sadder.
My teacher said this is fucking stupid. He's just like, he's like, dude, why? Why'd you even like ask this? I was like, I don't know. I thought it'd be cool.
Because you taken some catnip and wanted to feel some things.
I was in Lebanon, hanging with the cats, and I saw fire. I don't know. Like, it was actually funny because I was at the science center when I did that, and my dad suggested it because I think he went on with a field trip with us.
What you wrote about.
We went to the science center, and in the science center they had a whole bunch of like crazy exhibits.
Okay.
So like, I think it was specifically tailored towards us.
Okay.
And so we went to every single one, and then it was like one of those write a scientific paper about it. And so like I just wrote this thing, and my dad's like, you ever thought maybe fire was real? And like grade 9, like this is probably my dad fucking with me, you know? Like, dude, honestly, now I look back on that. But he's like, what if fire was real? And then I was like, dude, that's freaking awesome.
Fire could be real. Well, fire is real. It's just you mean not alive.
Wow. I didn't even think of that. I thought you were just laughing at me because that was...
No, now that I just thought of it now, I was like, oh no.
Are we that hard? Is it that I said fire was real and you agreed with me on it?
I knew the meaning, the words didn't make sense.
Fire isn't real, man.
What if fire's real?
What if fire...
No, it's an illusion. They made it up in the movies.
You ever think that whenever we're embarrassed, we're just starting little fires in our cheeks? Because it gets really hot.
No, I got you. You didn't have to explain it. But I was like, that's really, like, 17th century poetic right there. Like, totally don't understand how biology works.
Shitty poetic, then?
It's not that bad.
There's some bad stuff in the 17th century.
Like, William Butler Yeats was pretty good.
Who? I didn't hear what you said.
Yeats?
Oh.
Tiger, Tiger, Burning Bright?
It's okay.
Was that Yeats? Tiger, Tiger, Burning Bright?
No idea.
Okay.
I read it in like grade 10 and it just went like zoom right over my head.
Yeah, until somebody explains it to you.
Well, it was more like they kind of just threw poetry on us. Because you know how like those English classes are? They're just kind of like, you know.
It's a pretty intense teacher, so it was a little different.
Well, my teachers were like simultaneously, like there's some teachers who just didn't give a fuck. Like, okay, I'll give you an example. Okay, I was at Second Cup a little while back applying for jobs and stuff and just like getting out there.
Being the yuppie.
Being the yuppie that I am.
Being the epitome of yuppie.
Rich boy, I got my apple cider and I was sitting there on my computer.
That's why we're friends. I totally get an apple cider there too.
So I was sitting there with my computer and I was checking out stuff and I look up and I thought that old woman looked familiar. And I'm like, oh, she's a teacher. And I look back down and then I'm like, wait a minute. And I checked the clock. It was like 1:30. She gets in there. She's still in her coat. She gets in, sits down for 15 minutes maybe, sipping her coffee, gets up, drives in her car, goes. And then I saw the same car because I was walking back because I think I was seeing a route or something. I think I was going in that area. And I walked back and I saw her car at the parking lot in my school. So basically English teacher, basically just went like, fuck this. It's 1:30, so it's past lunchtime. She just went like, fuck.
Spare.
Maybe, but what if I want to go to Second Cup and sit there?
She hates her coworkers.
There you go. That's not a good English teacher.
To hate, you can't choose who you hate.
I think you can. I'm pretty sure you choose who you hate.
I think you choose to act on it. Like, you can be like, man, I really hate the guy, and then you like, I'm not going to think about him anymore because I hate him. Or you can be like, I hate him so much, and you know what I'm going to do? Instead of ignoring him or her, I'm going to personally ruin this person's life. Like, that's a choice, yeah. You can choose to do the action of hating. But maybe. Feeling the hating is, you can't...
I guess you can't stop the feeling, but I feel like you
can't stop the feeling! So bad.
Just dance.
Yeah, that was so bad on so many levels.
There you go. Quoted Justin Timberlake.
Mm-hmm.
How far are we in? 20 minutes?
No way.
Oh, fuck. 12 minutes. Wow, yeah, I'm terrible at this.
You're not.
I thought it was 20 minutes in.
So, you're not being tested on it.
This is not a test?
This is not a test.
I do not entertain. But yeah, anyway, I was saying, like, a lot of the English stuff, like... Okay, for example, Catcher in the Rye.
Yeah.
I think I'd like that book now way more than I did when I was in grade 11.
I probably should.
There's some really good stuff in there.
Yeah.
And, like, looking back on it, like, I remember looking back, like, Holden Caulfield, main character, is just, like, the douchiest, dickest. Just, I remember reading him.
He's also, like, the whole thing, too, was apparently he's also a loser. It's not even just, like, he's a
no, he's like...
hat. He's a loser, too.
He's an outcast in almost every single way.
Yeah.
But, I think the main thing from that was that, one, he was written kind of well for, like, I think he was 16, so it's actually kind of well.
Salinger wrote when he was 16?
Like, no, like, Holden Caulfield did 16.
Oh.
15 or something like that.
Really? So you're telling me this guy's just, like, that
he's
guy...
in school.
He's that guy in high school that everybody hates... He doesn't have any like talents whatsoever, and he's the guy in like 10 years who's gonna go and shoot everybody up.
He's a fat and ugly kid with a shitty personality that no one likes in any way.
So he's the guy who's probably gonna go back and shoot everybody.
No, he's the kid who's probably gonna like
shoot somebody in the future.
I was gonna say middle management at like Asus or some shit like that, like or like a kind of well-known company, like not Canadian Tire, but like Rona. Is that still a thing?
Rona's a thing.
Is it? I thought I got bought. Is it done?
I don't think so. I thought it was still a thing. Hey, where else are you going to get your freaking hardwood? Home Depot!
What about Home Hardware?
How many of those are there around?
Good amount?
In Toronto?
Fucking
I think there's like one.
I'm pretty sure we're not the demographic for Home Hardware.
Yeah.
Home Depot. I think I've been in there once to look at like fucking spigots.
It's random.
I like the word. It's one of those words I just like to drop. Like, indubitably. Just because it's fun to say.
Wait for Sherlock Holmes.
Does he say that a lot?
No, I'm just being an idiot. Probably it's elementary.
What are you, Robert Downey Jr.?
Elementary, my dear Watson. I did have that beard style for a little bit.
What, Robert? Oh, yeah, the Tony Stark.
Yeah, what are you talking? Yeah.
I was just... dude, I don't know.
Don't you tell a clog man why you such a grandpa.
You are a grandpa, but so am I.
I'm not a fucking grandpa.
Prove it. Have Facebook.
It doesn't make you a grandpa. It just makes you an outcast. There's a difference.
That's true. Grandpas have Facebook too.
Some grandpas do, depending on how quote unquote cool the grandpa is.
I love those like posts where it's like, I saw this one the other day where like, I think it was Domino's or something, where Domino's like, hey, our website's under maintenance.
Yeah, the pizza, right?
Yeah, and it's like, what else is there? Like Domino's the hobby.
Just double checking.
Why would there?
I don't know. Maybe some.
I guess if there was someone to
after that, I don't know.
A what?
Tire shop, like Active Green and Ross have a competition now called Domino's tires.
What?
Somebody was really like not creative.
Where is your brain right now? You could spell differently, like D-O-M-Y.
That would also be Domino, or two M's.
D-O-M-M-Y-K-N-O. W.
Nobody would know that.
Domino.
Yeah, but they're not gonna know it's K-N-O is gonna be pronounced no. They're gonna be like Demicno. What is this?
I'd shop at Demicno for tires. Come to Demicno. We buy your tires. We don't sell them though.
Where are you from?
We'll just buy your tires. I don't know. I am from Lithuania.
Lithuania.
That's my best accent I can do. I can't do any accents.
All right.
I can probably do Australian, but that's about it.
I'm not. I don't.
I'm from Perth.
So that was a British accent from London, and you just say it was Australian.
Mike. Perth. Brisbane.
Please stop. My cousin's actually dating a guy from Australia, so like you probably if he ever
is he like thick this, Australia or like.
What you mean, like from the outback where nobody can understand him?
I mean,
or
like,
do you mean
accent wise, not outback. No one cares about the outback. Let's be honest. Not if Australia cares about the outback.
Yeah, no, you can't speak for all of Australia. Come on, like, just because I think
one man in one microphone says Australia hates outback.
Oh, he's from Melbourne, so.
Oh, nice. Have you like met him? Does he have that thick accent? Thick accent.
Well, I can understand what he's saying, but he does have an Australian accent.
Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure you can still understand what he's saying if it's still thick accent. You can have a thick posh accent and still understand people.
Yeah, but it's not like I don't think it's crazy. It's not crazy thick. The guy's not.
It's noticeable right away, though, right?
If anybody talks low, you can't. It doesn't matter. But if he's speaking normal volume, then yeah, you can tell the guy's. You can tell the guy's full.
I was asking if he was speaking low, though. Why would you?
You can tell. Yeah, you can tell he's Australian. Well, if you're like me and you're not like I'm generally okay with picking out accents. For a half second, I thought he was British, but no, he's Australian. Well, plus he said he was from Melbourne. It was actually I thought of this too. Is that after I told it to like he's dating my cousin and she just recently graduated and we had like a dinner at a Chinese restaurant. And
why'd you have to specify that it was Chinese?
I was kind of glossing over it, but thanks for highlighting.
I'm just wondering. It's just one of those things. Like I find some just like little side notes. Just how that you have a weird specification on little side notes. Yeah. Like I was with my uncle Brian. It's like what the fuck does that matter? Who cares if his name's like Dick or Brian or Wibble Wobble or what the fuck ever? It doesn't change the story.
Yeah, you're pretty out of it saying Wibble Wobble's the name, but whatever.
Wobble Doo.
So we were at this restaurant, and I actually ended up asking.
Is it Chinese?
It was Asian Legend. Did you want to know that too?
I haven't heard of that place. Is it good?
So,
what kind of food did they have there? Oh, you told me. I know now. So it goes. People are gonna think. I don't know who's listening to this, but if anyone listens to this, they're probably gonna.
You're recording. No one's listening to it yet.
No, I'm saying that if anyone were to, they're gonna think A, I'm retarded. B, I'm a dick. And C, I'm not funny, so it's just gonna be this trifecta of like who would like this.
Well, they're not all wrong. You set it up. You set it up. I don't like you set yourself. For those of you who are listening, he just did a quasi FU symbol.
Did I?
Didn't you do like the thing where you cross your arm and lift it? Like one of these?
I thought you smacked your elbow.
Yeah, that thing. You smacked the elbow and you just didn't do the elbow smack. You just lifted your finger and slightly raised your middle one.
Did I?
Lifted your hand.
I didn't mean to do that.
Well, it was out of the side. It was a peripheral. I was from the periphery, so I can't really tell.
Maybe it was like a subconscious fucking.
Anyways, we were at the restaurant.
Chinese. It's Chinese for anyone wondering.
So we were at this restaurant, and I noticed that, like days before, I was thinking about it, and I asked her if you know, to confirm, I guess, to bring it up. I think that her boyfriend kind of looked like Captain Boomerang
from Suicide Squad.
Yeah, but also mixed with the comics because he was a red-haired dude with blue eyes, and she was like, "Oh yeah, no." I was like, "Oh wait, who's that?" I was like, "Jai Courtney." She's like, "Yeah, kind of." So yeah, I guess I think he looks like a mix of Jai Courtney's Captain Boomerang and the actual Captain Boomerang. And he's Australian too, and he's got red hair and blue eyes. That's Captain Boomerang.
Does he steal?
No, he's a nice guy.
No, there's that thing. Do you remember this? I didn't notice it till somebody else pointed it to me. But there's like this, basically like I think Captain Boomerang, like he like has like this. He steals a fluffy pink, unicorn.
That's Deadpool, isn't it?
No, that's in Suicide Squad. He steals a fluffy pink unicorn. Oh. It's supposed to make the audience go like, "Oh, Boomerang!" Like he's actually kind of soft. And then like halfway through the movie, he pulls it out to make sure it's okay and puts it away. And then at the very end of the movie, he reaches inside his jacket and you expect the unicorn. It's just cold hard cash, and you're like, "Where the fuck the unicorn go?" And it's like, yes, he lost it. He likes money now, so that's what I think of.
Well, that's another disappointment from that movie.
I'm so not looking forward to Justice League. Well, I am, but I'm not.
You are, but yeah.
I think it's like one of those things where it's like I don't want to see it fail. It's like I think I had the same feeling with Batman versus Superman, where I was like,
that one was an okay movie. It was a lot of special effects. Zack Snyder has this tendency to not enjoy light. Everything's dark all the time.
Dude, Wonder Woman had that issue. There's like this scene where this really cool scene between Wonder Woman and her sidekick, Chris Pine or whatever, right?
Trevor.
Steve
Trevor?
Chris, whatever bland white person name. And they're on a boat and they're like going to like London.
In the middle of the day?
And it's in the middle of the night. And it's just
night or day?
No, night. And it's just really dark. And I went to 2 separate theaters just to make sure. And like, hell, I even like checked it out like clips. And it's just dark, like really fucking dark. And it's not enjoyable, you know? Like Marvel movies are like way more like at least color happy.
Yeah, they change the colors a lot more. I don't know why the hell, like I get real costumes and stuff like that. They'd have to be more obviously effective. It makes sense that you're not going to have like freaking Superman wear the, you know, like the underwear above his tights. And the thing, like, it's not going to be super bright blue, and then it's going to be a bright red and not crimson because crimson is darker. But now they make it a crimson thing with like a really dark navy blue, and you're like, okay, they change in the comic or like in the animated to match it up a little bit more. Batman's always wearing black. Wonder Woman, yeah, okay, it would make more sense if you're going to look menacing to have a little darker colors as like armor, because it's kind of hard to make armor that's freaking bright.
Yeah.
Gold and thing without looking kind of ridiculous. But just why is it that you're in like the middle of the day and it's just like, okay, so we're in the middle of the day in Kansas, or Kansas, that's where the Kents are from, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the middle of the day and we're just going to make this, even though there's light everywhere, we're just going to make this a little hazy. Make it a little hazy, a little dim it down a bit, just to have the effect that this is like a memory, or this is dark and meaningful and somber. It's like, seriously, you can't just have like it strains the eyes of the viewer, number one, and two, it's just like, why is color doesn't even pop there? Like, what's the point?
See, for me, like, have you ever seen Arrival?
No, I wanted to.
It's the basic just, you know, aliens
and with a master linguist.
So the whole movie, I think the whole movie is shot with overcast clouds, no raining, but overcast clouds.
Okay.
And it's darker.
Yeah.
And it really pops in white. So there's a lot of black and white. There's not too much color, but there's a lot of black and white. So it pops when they first go up to the ship and they see the aliens and it's a white background. Pop. And then the black against the aliens, pop. And then, like, there's some things, like, when she's looking outside, or, like, when she's, like, looking because she has flashbacks to her kid and all that stuff, like, quote-unquote. But the thing is, with that movie, it worked because there was meaning behind it. There was supposed to be that kind of, like overcast in most people's mind it's uncertain. So it's like it's gonna threaten. It's pathetic fallacy, but it's you know it set the mood really well. Yeah. And kept it. But the problem was, like, Zack Snyder films, at least Man of Steel, Batman vs Superman, and a little bit of Wonder Woman has that, but it's not done well. It's not like
it just has it all the time.
It's just all the time, and it's just like after a certain point, it's just not.
There's no.
I don't want to say fun to look at, but it's not enjoyable to look at.
Yeah, and even like I find it even when he's like, Batman's right in the sunlight, you have to like pull the camera back so everybody can see the shadows. It's like why can't you just have like one day that doesn't suck and like, in this movie, like, that isn't dreary, that isn't like everybody's gonna die. That's just like.
Yeah. No, I get that. And like, you're looking back on Batman.
Comic book movie. It's supposed to be a little
fun.
Yeah.
I get that too. And like the main thing I found, like Batman is also, if you notice in at least the Ben Affleck one, he's gray. You notice that a lot of his suit is gray. I mean, like I'm guessing they're taking off like the Dark Knight Returns, you know, like and all that stuff.
Well, I mean, Batman's costumes kind of changed a lot over time, so it could either be like if you look at the animated series, it was gray. It had gray in it with some black. You go
which animated series?
The original one, the Batman the Animated Series.
Yes.
Yeah, you had like the gray body, but like the gauntlets, the boots, the obviously the bat symbol and the cowl and the cape are black.
But just a little side note with that, I think the main thing that really made that pop though was that Batman in that, because it was artistic and animated, they can make him black as fast as they wanted to. So what he does is he swooshes the cape and he becomes this black entity, and then what pops isn't color, but it's a lack of color. And that's what Batman does really well in the animated series, but it doesn't work so well in the movie when it's fucking Ben Affleck trying to run around with his tubby little legs, right? Like he can't go like swoosh. Yeah, but he can't go swoosh. He lives in a fucking tire. Like, I get he's jacked, but...
Well... wait, sorry, what's your point again? Like, what, you don't like there was gray in it and...
I just felt it was bland. Like Batman pops because he's black.
Like, you mean the costume?
Yeah, the costume pops.
You mean because everything else around him was super dark, so he didn't pop?
Yeah, like, and it felt like the gray inside, instead of being like this fully black kind of figure, the gray inside kind of made it muted. So it wasn't black, it was muted. And there's a difference between the two, because if it was black, I feel like it could have been more of like a shadowy like Batman, and I think the whole thing is
you can take like they made Batman there look more like a tank. He was more of a tank of a character rather than like the guy who can.
He looks like more of a tank than fucking Superman, honestly.
Yeah, that's one of the things too. I was like, when Harry Cavill, right? Like Superman is supposed to be, you know, like he's supposed to have the body of like a WWE wrestler, he's 6'3", and just D's out of his mind. But like not
Superman or Batman?
Superman. I mean, Batman's also supposed to be super jacked too, but you don't think when you think of Batman, you could think of him modern day. They've made it that he also has an intimidating physical presence, but for people who aren't really cut up with this stuff or don't watch as many cartoon movies as I do, you can have him just look like a fit guy.
Sorry.
But his costume is a tool. You use, like you said, the black to be able to take like a bad guy who's in the light standing behind like, you know, that an alleyway standing guard, and you know Batman just takes him, freaking like puts him in the dark, kicks his ass, and then just goes to the next dark place, avoiding sight and raising enough ambition to make people fear that they know he's there and don't know what's going on.
Which would be the exact opposite of Superman. For if like
he just breaks in and just kicks everyone down.
Well, I'm just like this popped in my head. If you had an alleyway, there was like light and then darkness in the alleyway. Batman would come from the back and Superman would probably come from the front with the light, and be a cool dichotomy, right? Because that's how it's always been.
Yeah, what they've done with what seemed like what they did with Batman versus Superman was they had a little bit of that, but it seemed like they just had him they had Batman kind of just like break through like the floor, whereas instead in other like movie series, especially the one where they did the Frank Miller version of it, and they had him, you know, the Dark Knight Returns, the parts 1 and 2. They had him be a friggin' tank, but they had him work in the first fight scene. For example, when he's facing those the mutant guys, the bunch of any group of thugs, right? He broke a bunch of stuff, but he also stayed in the shadows, so they would pick each guy off one by one. You know, he's smart like that. That's his kind of his MO. Here it's like, he blasted in and kicked all these SWAT teams guys' asses, and then just freaking zipped out of there. And it's just like, well,
actually, that's my favorite part of the film. Just honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it could just be like the dumb kid, 5-year-old.
Oh, for sure.
Duh. I mean, like, I remember there was a really awesome scene where he like flips over a fucking crate and like smashes a dude's head in.
Yeah.
And I remember like the first thing I thought of was like the Arkham Asylum games, where it was like, you know, there's Batman kicking ass and makes you feel cool, and I'm like, there's Batman kicking ass, and it looks really cool, and I like that. Like,
I'm saying he's doing a pretty good job, but they're kind of making him like more of a tank rather than the mix of the dominating physical presence, the interrogator, the guy who is getting like the great detective part of him as well, and they just kind of like, and that scene that just sticks out in my mind, and maybe just blowing smoke because I've only watched that movie once on a plane, but just like he breaks in and just beats the guy's ass and then walks. It's not like when Batman's gonna kick a guy's ass, I think of it as he's gonna kick everybody else's ass, and he's gonna take one guy. He's going to take that one guy and he's going to bring him to like a very precarious situation. Either tie him up and then have him like hang off some sort of like large, either a building, or tie him up and put him in a room and then interrogate him for a little bit, smack him around a bit, not too much, because the point of Batman isn't to beat the crap out of a guy, and it's not to beat the crap out of a guy just to beat the crap out of a guy and then just happen to get information. The point is he's got a job and he's getting the information out of the guy, and if he has to beat the crap out of him, he's going to do that to get his job done.
That's what I felt. I agree with you a lot on that. I think the main thing is that I think they could have kept that scene in if they had put a scene in that had unhinged Batman a little bit more. The only thing that was really unhinged was maybe because Superman, for some strange reason, called his mom by his first name, and then went like Martha, and then he's like, my mom's name is Martha, and they had a whole moment. Yeah. But even then, he like, sure, you could argue like, oh, this is his chance to save his Martha, right? You know, his mom. But even then, it didn't really come off as like, oh, it's saving it. It kind of
it was just like a happy coincidence that just said, oh, this guy isn't all bad. He's actually not a complete jerk. But you know, I just thought that they made Batman there way too pissy. Because the thing with Batman
like
is
pissy,
even
like weak, or pissy as in like complaining?
His attitude. His attitude. Like normally Batman, he's obviously maudlin and curmudgeonly, but he's always most of the time he's like really in control. He's a guy who's like watching over.
Well, they needed them to fight. I think that's why. Yeah,
but he's not easily. They made Batman kind of really easily manipulated, and everyone. And when we look at Batman, I kind of think of him as also not the prototypical adult, but he has a lot of the qualities that would make him an adult, despite all the effed up things that cause him to lash out by dressing up in a bat costume and kicking people's asses in the streets. He also has a very good self-control.
Like, he is still Bruce Wayne and Batman sort of thing.
Yeah,
right?
The Batman is also his duty, but both of them, they have, like, the guy's an adult in the sense that he's you look at it and you see him as a very hardened guy. As an adult, he's going to look at things a little bit really like logically, but every once in a while you get to see his human side. And I'm talking about like not like the very 19, like when they really started off, how he was supposed to be a massive playboy. I'm talking about like when he's done this for a little while, where he's not like a playboy,
rough sort of thing.
Yeah, or at least Bruce Wayne's more of the playboy, and he's more of, he's that a little bit antithesis of it.
I think the best way to just say the animated series. I mean, like, the animated series. That's I feel like a lot of people just say that's the Batman.
Yeah, to me that's Batman.
That's like quintessential Batman.
Yeah, to me that's quintessential Batman. And then what they did with this one was just like Affleck, he's a great actor no matter what. and he did what he had to do, and he did a good job. And I think he's actually of the past couple ones, he's up there. I think with Bale, just in performance wise. I
think Bale had a little bit of issues.
Well, I mean, yeah, that was a whole different take on it. They took a lot of like liberty with those, but that was updated, but I think done well as well in different ways.
Yeah, no, I really liked them. Like The Dark Knight, like looking back on it, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of like weird moments, and there's some stuff that people were like, "Wow, this movie's overrated," but you can't say at the end of the day that's not a good film. I mean, fuck, Heath Ledger, like. That like
you can see he made the performance of that one.
Well, the thing is, like, it's hard to take a character that was like kind of like just hit a super high with Mark Hamill, and it's hard to make your own version of him resonate that well in a movie.
Yeah, for sure. And take nothing away from Heath Ledger. God rest his soul. That guy worked so hard. That was, I think, a little part of the problem is he worked too hard that he. Even though he had this great character, it didn't help him personally with his own issues. But he worked so hard at this character that he succeeded in what's super hard, was taking something that's already been done and tweaking it and making it a little bit more original and doing it well. And he did that, and he did that. He nailed that right on the head, and got a whole different kind of fan base to get into that sort of series. Or into that kind of culture. Mm-hmm. I think like Affleck did was they kind of, even with Affleck's one, just like I think with what they did was that Christopher Nolan did those 3 films?
Yep.
And in the Nolan films and in the one that Snyder did, they kind of made Batman, I think, or at least that character, they highlighted his humanity a lot, or right from the get-go.
Nolan and
yeah, I just think in like, especially in Dark Knight Rises too, and obviously in The Dark Knight, they had a lot of personal stuff with Bruce Wayne. So it wasn't, you didn't get to see that impression of, here's the guy, he's really calm and collected and he knows what he's doing. When he's jumping around, trying to chase the Joker, that whole phrase, where is she? That's a dude who's unhinged. Yeah. That's not just like the guy who's getting unhinged. He starts off, where is she, Joker? Where is she? And then he slaps her around, and then gets more and more unhinged as he goes along, as what we'd think would happen, or at least what I would think would happen. It just starts off as, I'm an angry, pissed off, crazy man.
I think what Nolan did really well with that sort of stuff was he kind of made, like, Batman, like, in a lot of ways, like, at least in the animated series, it was kind of like Batman kept a lot of his composure. That's what I'm saying. Compared to Bruce Wayne. But in those movies, I think what he did kind of well in his own little take was he kind of made it so that to in his mind, Bruce Wayne was using Batman to like vent.
Yeah,
and so sure. I think it went well. I mean, obviously there's funny moments like where is she and like the stupid voice. Which looking back on it, I remember as a kid,
where is she? Yeah.
I mean, like looking back on it, it's not the best voice. I loved it as a kid, but now I look back and I'm like, what?
Yeah, that actually raised a point. What they did really good with that movie, I think, was they took all the things that a lot of the previous Batman movies were kind of campy, and this one took it and if they took it seriously, they asked the question, what would happen if somebody actually tried doing this in modern day with the resources and the training?
Well, a little bit, yeah.
And so they're like, what would you have to do? Well, if the guy had the same voice, they have to disguise it somehow. And so they just happen to pick some like
not
weird
like Clark Kent bullshit, right?
Yeah, where the guy looks the exact same, with maybe just he ungelled one part of his like hair for 1 second and just took off his glasses and nobody can recognize him.
I remember reading a comic thing where like Bruce talked about how like apparently Superman like pitches his voice so it's completely different. Like it's higher when he's talking like as Clark and lower as Superman, and like
that must be a lot of work.
Like the only one that honestly like to me made sense like was Flash's, where he just kind of goes like I mean you must get sick really fast. I mean you're still going but I mean that's the only one that really made sense to me. Like Batman I was still kind of like
that one but with going back to what Affleck's doing is they also made in those flicks too, they also made him a little bit, instead of being the angry unhinged guy, they got to him being the angry unhinged guy, but they got him to be more paranoid. So instead of him, he was slick. They did have him being a guy who was composed most of the time, but I swear as soon as he hears As soon as the first thing you're introduced with Affleck and Jeremy, and that scene in scenes with him and Jeremy Irons, is that he turns to him and he has that little speech where he's just like, if we're not 100% certain that he's our ally, then we have to act quickly and swiftly, or whatever the hell he says, and just it's like he like kind of like snaps and gets really snippy about it instead of kind of mulling over it.
No, like, Alfred, I don't want to. I'm gonna wear whatever I want. I want to wear this crop top.
Like instead of mulling over it and then coming to the conclusion after a lot of thought or even conferring with Alfred on some other stuff, he was kind of just really frantic. They didn't introduce Batman. What I would have liked is they introduced him as the composed, the dangerous, the calculated, the one we all think of, like you said, with the animated series, and then switched into a little bit more of what's Bruce really thinking, and then kind of going off that. Where here it's just like, okay, we're going to introduce this guy, and then we're going to make him seem like really frantic and present the problem a lot quickly, and it's been 27 minutes just doing a fight, which was just these two guys who are actually realistically supposed to be a lot smarter and more composed than what's being portrayed here. They're just fighting for 40 minutes because they're being manipulated by like the one dude,
which really like
who's like, you can talk about what you didn't like or did like with that portrayal of him, but it was kind of weird.
Honestly, like looking back, Lex Luthor, I think, was total shit in that movie. I'm just gonna be honest, but
that wasn't the Lex Luthor I would think of, or even in every single of the other like animated movies that they have.
Lex Luthor.
Yeah, the Lex Luthor in all those other animated movies was physically more dominant. He was like I mean, the
he
thing
couldn't
they got
stand up to
right,
Superman, but it was more of like a presence to humans. I always thought Lex Luthor was like dominant physically and mentally to like almost every single human. He was supposed I am the alpha male.
And depending on which kind of movies you watch or which I guess comics you read, he can or he may or not be like one of the smartest man in the world. So he's supposed to be the smartest guy in the world, up for being president of the USA, because he's like freaking Donald Trump if Donald Trump was way smarter and more like ambitious rather than just a guy just like yelling at people and saying everything sucks. He has like, this guy has Avengers against Superman, and he is the rich guy. He's the guy with the really successful businesses. He's also like he also is like Tony Stark in the sense where he has like a freaking super suit and can make thing, right? And he's obviously a genius as well, and has a lot of, he's very ambitious, politically and with his business ventures and all that stuff. But but as you said, he's also physically dominant as well. And they kind of made him more cold. He's the guy who's supposed to be a little bit more unhinged, but angry and pissy. Not kind of like psychotic in the sense that they made with Jesse Eisenberg. Now, Jesse Eisenberg, he did his acting great. That was like, for a character, that was a great character, but I don't think it was Lex Luthor. They made him kind of way too flamboyant, and then they got the menacing, they got that, but they made him really flamboyant. They made him more of like,
they made him more of a prankster. Like, I remember that scene. Remember when he's talking to the senator and then he like pops like a.
He's a rich young guy who's just like screwing with people who are bigger than him.
Yeah,
which is not what I think Lex Luthor is about.
I agree. I was just like quickly going back to my point. I was just saying that. Thinking about it right now, I think Civil War did a lot of what Batman vs. Superman wanted to do, but it did it in a really good kind of PG way.
Check. That's another +1 for Marvel.
Oh, I mean, like, Marvel knows how to fucking... Like, they got people supporting, and they're like, look, this is how we want it ultimately to be, so you gotta follow certain guidelines, otherwise have fun. But, like, DC is under, like... Zack Snyder's like just chopping block almost at this point, but like anyway, like you have the manipulator dude, and there's a good tie to Avengers. There's a good tie to him just like at the very end he gets caught, right?
What are you referring to?
In Civil War, the dude I forget, he's some Russian, or the dude that country was destroyed in Avengers 2.
When Daniel Brühl played, what was his name? Zemo, Baron Zemo?
That's it, yeah. So he's Zemo,
Which they changed there a lot too, or that's a conversation for another time.
Yeah, but he basically, I thought that was really good because at the very end, he just kind of sat there and he's still listening to the same voicemail. And I think what really pushed that was that I think like Luther was kind of like petty. But
yeah, that's the thing. That's exactly it. He was way petty. He was very snarky, and snippy in like more of a juvenile way, rather than the older guy who's just curmudgeon, but brooding. He wasn't brooding as much as conniving and planning.
No, like Zemo was like pissed off. You could tell, but he was also just kind of like, well, I'm also dealing like Lex Luthor came off as like I'm gonna be this big dude, but like Zemo kind of came off as I want to fucking destroy the Avengers, but like fucking look at me, like Iron Man, Captain America, I could probably barely take fucking Bucky. I mean, like, okay, Bucky's really good, but like I could probably take like fucking like
in that
Black
version,
Hawk or whatever, right?
Hawkeye.
No, the Hawk, the Black Hawk, Captain
Falcon.
Falcon.
Falcon. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, what Black they Hawk did there was they were like, DC? I don't know what happened. What they did there was they changed the character so much that you kind of had to take it as a... I mean, you could argue that for both. With Zemo, right, he was more effective, right? And that's why we're not talking about him as much as how much they changed it. The real Zemo, it was a guy who is... There's a couple of
purple
them. But
suit,
yeah,
right?
He's a purple suit that's also, like, the mask is kind of melted on his face. He's also has like there's the grandson and the grandfather, both of which Steve Rogers fights, and the grandson somehow he's a Hydra affiliate, just like basically everybody in his universe. He is a Hydra affiliate. He's a Hydra affiliate, and he's a swordsman, German guy, big surprise, and he also has some version of a super soldier, but he's really combat based. Whereas this guy they didn't take him as from that stream or that lore, which I thought was kind of disappointing. If you're going to assign the name instead of making up a new character, which would have served an equally good purpose, they made this guy from the made up land of Sokovia, and they kind of had him not in the suit, not fighting, just as a guy who with a really good point that's going about it in a diabolical way. Good character. Just they kind of used the name and didn't really like associate it with what it's been in a lot of other
I think movie
ways.
Execs are just really scared of that shit, honestly. I think they're just scared to make a new character. Or maybe there's some copyright issues or some shit, but if there's something where it's like, okay, we want to break up the Avengers, who do we use?
Yeah.
And then, like, I bet you anything some Marvel or Disney exec is just like, fucking Zemo, I don't give a shit.
Okay.
Break them up.
What they do, I think, though, is that as soon as... Like in Harley Quinn's case, what happens is like you debut a new character in cinema or in small screen, and then the comics after it kind of bring them together. I don't know if that's what happened with Coulson. Did they do that with Coulson? Was Coulson around beforehand?
Who's Coulson?
Agent Coulson? Like the Greg?
I think... I don't know. Let me look him up.
Because that's what they ended up doing for... I mean, well,
looking on my phone.
At least that's what they could have ended up doing, is that they used him in big screen, put him in the small screen with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but also put him in animated series, like the Spider-Man animated series, and probably have comic books about this guy, too. He's an integral character. So I'm
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., right?
He's the main guy. He's the main guy in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And so... What I wouldn't be surprised if they could have introduced a new character and in like, why not in the biggest movies ever, and just you introduce a new character and then you kind of roll with it in the comics later. I mean,
yep, you're right. Phil Coulson was created by Mark blah 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 for Iron Man, the first film in the Marvel MCU.
Yeah, so they created him and then they rolled with it, and I don't think anybody really had a problem with it because I mean it is a film. First of all, you have to kind of take a couple liberties with it, but it's not like he had an important role, but he's introduced there, like you said, in Iron Man, as a side guy. He wasn't the main guy. They didn't make him replace Nick Fury. They just added him to it, and they let Iron Man do his thing, and then they kind of built him in as time goes along. So I don't know why they had to pick, like, if they're gonna pick Zemo, why don't you like go with the Zemo that we all know, like or at least a version of it. They didn't go with the crossbones that we all knew, but they got to that point where here's a guy in a suit who's a Hydra affiliate, happens to be American and is a mercenary, played by Frank Grillo, and I think they used him kind of okay. I think
it's just tough for at least a movie that's like Marvel stuff. Like the main thing like I think of is like, for example, I feel like okay, this was DC, but I think Grodd would be very hard to be introduced into the movie universe. You know, because he's a fucking no, but not just that. He's a telepathic gorilla. There's a little bit that goes like I feel like as Marvel has kind of been growing. Marvel like Iron Man started off, and then they're like, okay, now we're gonna introduce
Did they do Thor next?
Oh, fuck, I don't remember the exact order, but Thor was kind of like okay, everyone kind of knew Thor though, but then. Like Scarlet Witch, like they introduced like a little bit at the end, but the basic Scarlet Witch. She basically was like Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver were both both basically have like really good superpowers, and I mean like superpowers, and like people seem to be like yeah, like somebody said like what's Scarlet? If I were to ask some person who just watched Avengers 2 or something like that, what Scarlet Witch's powers were, they'd be like she's got magic and shit. Doctor Strange, he's got magic and shit. Like there's. As this universe grows, I feel like people are more and more willing to accept stuff. And I think
it's because of the way they do it, right? It's not like... I think the difference between the two is that Marvel's really good at covering their mistakes or at least rolling with them and taking you onto the main... They don't make like a mistake which kind of affects the whole damn plot of the movie. They'll make something that's different, and you quickly rolled it to accept it. I think case in point would be with Falcon, right? Falcon... That suit isn't supposed to be like what we know as the suit. Like the suit for Sam Wilson, I think is his name. Sam Wilson isn't just an army guy. He was, as they portray him here in the movies. Sam Wilson, I think, is supposed to be a genius level intellect. Has a suit that flies, that he made himself. Shoots not rockets, but shoots kind of like the feathers as kind of like bolts or darts. Shoot the feathers? Or something like that. And he's kind of like a combination of Tony. He's like, I guess, like a younger version of Tony Stark in a certain sense. And I guess maybe they wanted to make him differently, but we've accepted it because they did such a good job kind of developing the character with Anthony Mackie's role, where they had him be an ex-military guy. They kind of, even though they kind of really rushed the fact that he got a friggin' Falcon suit that they kind of just that Captain America just picks up out of like the closet, and it's just like, okay, here, Sam, take it. You go ahead, do it. Yeah, and the fact that the guy knows how to work it perfectly first time, we kind of get over that.
No, Sam, he was a paratrooper. Like that was what he used in the movie. Oh, really? Yeah, he was, because he says like, what were you? Oh, I was a paratrooper. One of my partner got shot down, and then they go pick up his thing, and then when he starts flying, he's like, I didn't say what kind of paratrooper I was. And Captain America's like, oh, you. And then it goes like, womp, 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 womp. Okay. It's just a little joke that they do. But with the Snyder thing, it's just like, it's not like you're watching some guy's attitude for the whole entire thing just be contradictory to our interpretation of it with a major character. Like when Marvel, I think, makes mistakes, they don't do it with massive characters. They do it with like some guys that are huge, but not like they could have made a mistake. Like I feel like Ant-Man really wasn't their best movie, and I don't think it will be.
But I think it's a good movie, and they pick. No, but I don't think it'll. I
don't think it'll be remembered.
Yeah, well, you'll definitely remember the character Ant-Man.
Yeah, you'll see him and be like, yeah, Ant-Man, that's cool. He drinks, he grows, that's it.
Yeah, and even though they did that, I think mostly pretty well. They decided to go with Scott Lang, the second gen, and they included Pym there, pretty good. They got over it and went with it because it was, obviously the main guys in these movies are going to be Captain America and Robert Downey Jr.'s version of Iron Man, who were super good.
Oh god, yeah. And fucking Chris Evans, Steve Rogers is just like right there is one of my. I think he's my favorite superhero on film because I think Because I mean, even the way they write it, I mean, like there is kind of how Superman should have been written because he's almost unrelentingly good, but just bad shit happens to him, and then you go to Man of Steel, and it's just Jesus imagery and like all this shit that Zack Snyder's putting down.
I didn't like that. And the thing with like, yeah, with the DC mistakes, it's just like when you see DC, they also do have like. It's not like you don't like the whole movie. You gotta deal with like a dim shade. The whole movie you gotta deal with a dim shade. It's not like
it's like wearing sunglasses in a movie theater.
Yeah, it's like you're wearing sunglasses in a movie theater, and that's the whole movie is like that. Or you make the if you're gonna talk about like Superman's, you know, or even Batman's attitude, it's not like he says one thing that's kind of contradictory and you kind of accept it and move on. It just is they're so integral that you're just like you have to roll with it, but you're not excited about what's coming up next, I guess, as much. You're kind of wondering what the hell they're gonna do with it. Like they have like a freaking kryptonite lance. Well, they made that up, number one. And you know my
like kryptonite lance.
And you know my feelings on how they portrayed Lois Lane. It's like everywhere else, like she's you know either sassy or just kind of like wide-eyed, but she's like, you know, brunette chick. And
my bad.
She was a brunette journalist, and here, yeah, I think Amy Adams did that pretty well. But a box of hair dyes and cost $10, and you didn't. It's like, why is she a redhead? Like, it's fun. Like, if you never heard of the character, I understand it. But it's like they made like 4 Superman movies before this with Christopher Reeves, and she didn't look like that at all. If you honestly like put a poster of just Amy Adams and didn't put the name underneath and it had the background there, it'd be like, is this like a movie about lawyers in New York or something? Like, you wouldn't know who it is.
Yeah,
but
that's true. You put Clark, say like Clark Kent and all that stuff. Yeah. And as you put Clark Kent where he is and then Lois Lane, that's probably going to be... I cannot think right now. I was trying to agree with you. All right, let's like end this thing. So... I was thinking it'd be funny if we answer a really stupid question, because why not? So
answer a stupid question, okay. Stupid answers are not.
I'm gonna do the second one because
unacceptable. Probably will happen.
What's your opinion on sand?
Are you asking me this? Or you're gonna answer it.
You can go first.
I think sand is pretty cool. You can't have a beach. You can't have a beach without sand.
Sand sucks.
You can make glass from it.
Fuck sand. Can I just say that? Fuck sand. Everything about it. It sucks.
Gets in your toes, like in your shoes.
Gets in my toes. I can't fucking wash it off. It's little tiny rocks. What the fuck's that about?
It's
like, make
rocks.
up in your mind. Aren't you a giant rock? Like, fuck off. I don't know. It's just I don't like sand. It's boring. It's like, give me a beach with flowers. Give me the Beach Boys and free my soul. How to get
lost in your rock and dude, that you're mixing
and drift away. My mind was smashing songs there.
Yeah, it didn't make any sense whatsoever.
Give me the Beach Boys and free my soul.
Give me the Beach Boys. Brian Wilson, you've got a call here. It's from a possibly troubled young man. He needs some spiritual guidance. He needs some spiritual guidance, and you and your musical compatriots are the only group of men who can help him out. Please answer the call, I pray.
Possibly troubled young man. I'm not making any assumptions, but like, he fucking asked for you in a song. Why did he just call you? I don't know. That's weird.
It started off with sand and then devolved into this.
The Beach Boys are free. Yeah, that's the way that fucking thing ends. I have no idea. Any final things?
Not all sand is bad.